Hi, my name is Matt Stohrer, and I repair saxophones for a living. This is the third part of a three-part series on tone holes. The first, I explained what tone holes are, the different types, and the benefits and drawbacks of each. In the second video, I explained leveling tone holes, why you do it, the benefits and drawbacks of doing it. And in the third video here, I'm actually going to level a tone hole to show you how it is done. I highly encourage you watching at least the second video, if not the first. I know it's a lot of time, but it's kind of an important part of the saxophone, and there's a lot to say, and I talk a lot. So we are going to be using our Tonehole files, which I have explained in the previous video, to level this tone hole here. And this is a Buffet S1 alto saxophone in very good original condition. Original lacquer, has not been damaged, is a very high quality handmade French saxophone, and this tone hole is in original condition. This is how it came from the factory, and this is actually, they did a pretty darn good job. This tone hole is not too unlevel. What I've got here is a leak light inside the horn. I've got a flat piece of metal that I'm going to hold against the tone hole, and we can see there that's the level of unlevelness. And we've got a little bit of a high spot north-south, which is why I can rock this back and forth, and what looks like maybe kind of also a high spot right in the middle here. Now, this is a thin sheet of graph paper, and illustrate the kind of how much we're really talking about here taken off. So I can't get that sheet of paper in there. So this is actually, we're going to be taking off less than the thickness of a sheet of paper. That will not fit. And this really won't take too long, but because we're not taking off too much material, but we want to do it with a high degree of precision, because you cannot put material back on, and the less you need to take off, the better it is, because you want to leave the instrument as intact as possible. The integrity of the instrument is paramount. Now, assuming you do not have any damage to the body and your tone holes are unlevel, what you're going to be doing is using an abrasive process to bring the high points down equal to the low points in the tone hole. And this is usually going to be the thickness of a sheet of paper or less. If it's more than that, you've got problems. And usually it's going to be body damage, or you've got a very poorly made saxophone. So what we're going to do here to illustrate how these Tonehole files are working, and to make it a little bit easier and more foolproof for us, is I'm going to be taking a Sharpie, and I'm going to color in the edge of the tone hole. Okay, so I've colored in the edge of that tone hole. And I'm going to take my Tonehole file, which, by the way, I use these manually. I actually use my fingers, and the reason being is that it's very easy to have your Tonehole file kind of rock back and forth if you use the tools that come with it, which is basically like a hex key. And you really need to, until you get your tone hole mostly level, especially if you've got two high points, it's very possible for the file to rock back and forth, and it will take material away from the entire tone hole without actually leveling it. Now, some people will use like electric screwdrivers or drills and attach them to their tone hole files to try and make the process go a lot faster. But there's just no way that, in my opinion, that you can get the precision you need to level the tone hole well doing anything but using your hands. And it takes me a few hours to level the tone holes on a saxophone, and I go away with blisters, but you only ever need to do it once on each saxophone if you do it right. So we're going to put this tone hole file onto our tone hole, and I'm going to very carefully take a couple swipes. And then we'll look at it and see where we're taking material away. Okay, so let's see if I can get it to focus. So we've still got a little bit of Sharpie right here and a little bit right here, which means these are low spots. But we've taken away most, it looks like, most of the high spots already with just a couple swipes, which really, I mean, it kind of says something about whether you need to use a drill to do this. when you hold the tonehole file level and just do nice even swipes with your hand, the material comes away pretty quickly with these diamond abrasive tonehole files. And this is the fine abrasiveness. There is a medium, but that pulls it away too fast for my tastes, unless maybe you're working on student instruments where they're really not made well in the beginning. Okay, I think that's going to be... I've still got a little bit of Sharpie right here. I don't know if you can see that dark part, but the rest of it is pretty much come down to where it needs to. So we've got one last low point here. And you can actually feel in the file as you're going along, it gets smoother and smoother the more level the tone hole gets. And I like to apply less and less pressure the more level it gets, because I don't want to deform the instrument and also, or deform the body of the instrument and cause it to spring back like it did at the factory. And also it gives you a nicer finish. Okay, we've still actually got a low point right here, although it's getting really close. So I am going to draw that portion in one more time. And also we've got a little bit of a low point here. Now I'm going to go a little faster than I've gone before, just because I'd like to get this video done. You can't hurry it too much. And like I said, this tone hole's in pretty good shape, and it's probably going to take us 10 or 15 minutes to get it done. When they're in worse shape, it takes a while, and you can... I mean, I definitely get blisters. It's not my favorite thing to do, but like I said, you really only got to do it once. Okay, we're looking pretty good now. I think we're just reaching that low point right here. I'm going to color it in one more time and make sure that we've got that taken care of. So with very light pressure here, let's see if we're taking off that Sharpie. Still a little bit dark. And like I mentioned in the other video, these tonehole files, I've got two types. We're using the diamond abrasive type first because they work a little faster. And then I'll be switching to what I like to think of as a burnisher type. It's basically a very dull file that leaves a nice mirror finish. Okay, that looks pretty good. You can see how it's shiny all the way around now. I've got about $2,000 into these tonehole files, so this is not something you're necessarily going to be doing at home, but it's something that it's good to understand how it's done when it's done right. So, okay, so now we have roughed in that tonehole with our diamond abrasive files, and it leaves a pretty good finish. A lot of people will stop here, but I like to get a nice mirror finish. It's kind of hard to see in the video because it won't focus on it because it's shiny, but the diamond abrasive, it's basically a very fine sandpaper. It leaves kind of some scratches in the surface. It's a little bit rough, and I want it to be mirror finish. I want it to be as easy to make an airtight seal-on as possible. So here is my second set of tonehole files, and these work basically the same. You've got a pilot that holds it in the tonehole. This is a little bit awkward because I'm kind of doing this with the camera between me and the work. This is just a piece of Teflon that I hold on here so I don't make the blisters on my finger any worse. And let's see if I can get better light on this so you guys can see it. And this is just to finish the work here. Like I said, this particular step isn't completely necessary, but it really is nice to have mirror finish tone holes. Nice and flat. Okay, so we've finished off that tone hole. Now what we're going to do last is take a little bit of aluminum foil, just make a little stick of it and kind of crimp up the end, and draw this around the tone hole to remove any burrs that are there. The aluminum foil is soft enough that it won't damage anything, but hard enough that if you've got like any little tiny like splinters of brass, it will remove them. And then at the end of it, you'll be able to run your finger around the tone hole. There won't be any sharp edges, any splinters, and that's really important because the leather in the pad is pretty soft and supple, and you do not want to damage that with sharp edge on your tone hole. There's a number of different ways you can deburr the tone hole, but this I find works really well, and I can control what I'm doing very well by altering the shape of the tool I've made. Okay, so we have just leveled this tone hole, and you can see around the base of the tone hole there's like a little bit of dust, and that is the material that we took off. So that is the amount of brass that we just took off this instrument. It looked like an awful lot because it went really slow, because we want to be very, very careful, and I purposely have tools that are fairly dull. We took off less than the thickness of a sheet of paper from the top of that tone hole, but now it is going to be nice and level. So let's go ahead and light up the inside. Take our flat sheet of metal, make sure we've got nothing on the back here. This is nice and flat. And there we go. Nothing showing on that side. And let's flip it over. And nothing showing on that side. And what that's going to do is just make pad work on this instrument so much easier to do and last so much longer. So tone holes are not usually level from the factory. If they've been damaged, they're not level. If the horn has been re-lacquered in particular, they will be very unlevel because of the buffing that is done. Buffing is basically, you've got a nice big abrasive wheel, and it spins really fast, and it takes everything and makes it shiny again. But in the process, all your sharp edges, like your tone holes, the edges of your posts, your keys, the engraving, gets abraded away very quickly. So if you've got a re-lacquered horn, your tone holes are probably not level. And that is one of the two major factors that make re-lacquered horns more difficult to work on, and also usually not play as well as non-re-lacquered counterparts. But if you level the tone holes on a re-lacquered horn and you also rebuild the mechanics, they're actually usually every bit as good as the original finished horn. It's just you have to do extra work to get it back to where it was. So that is how you level a saxophone tone hole. It's not very difficult in practice. It just takes time and the right tools. And in the hands of someone who knows what they're doing, you can significantly improve the ease with which good pad work is done on your instrument, the longevity of the pad work on your instrument, and you only need to do it once during the lifetime of an instrument. So there you have it. That's leveling tone holes. My name is Matt Stohrer. I repair saxophones for a living. I hope you enjoyed this epic 3-part series. Took me way longer than it should have. It's actually like 9-something at night, and I got a bunch more work to do because this took up so much time. So I hope you love it. I hope it was worth it. Let me know. Leave comments here. Email me. Call me. If there's anything you'd like to see on my channel, let me know. Thanks for watching.